All right, legends, how is everybody doing? Make sure to absolutely smash up that like button if you do enjoy the content. What is going on with Bitcoin? Are we going to manage to hit those highs very, very soon that we did form just slightly below $95,000? We'll be going through the higher time frame, different possibilities, and also zooming in to the lower time frame. Now, I have to say this movement to the downside does look pretty corrective, right? It does look very choppy. So are we expecting a bit of a wedgie structure, start getting that momentum and claim 94,700, the highs that we did form yesterday at some point, right? Maybe today, tomorrow, or are we going to roll down to much lower levels? We'll be analyzing very, very carefully this internal structure that we have been forming throughout the last 24 hours. It does look quite corrective, I have to say. This movement right over here does look quite corrective. We are getting a bit of resistance at the VWAP at the moment. We did manage to try and, get above it, getting a bit of resistance, trying to get above the VWAP. Very choppy price action to the upside. We'll be analyzing very carefully what could be the next scenarios. But overall, it does look like that the highs could be reclaimed in the next coming hours, maybe the next 1 to 2 days. It does look like that push to the upside is likely going to happen. We do have some pretty nice support in this region. I'm not sure that we are going to go down to lower levels, right? I think a lot of people are expecting a little bit of lower levels to get into the long position. And a lot of the people, many people are expecting basically lower, right? To find support and then get the easy trade to the upside, right? However, this does look like it could be a finished structure. It could be a finished structure, and I will zoom in on the lower time frames to explain why. Getting a bit of resistance at the VWAP, trying to reclaim the VWAP. Okay, first initial short-term, right, time frame, sign of strength. And I'll be explaining that here in the next coming minutes. Of course, we'll be zooming out on the higher time frame, right, to discuss a little bit of what I've been mentioning throughout the last couple of videos, which is, we are coming to a resistance level, right? And I did get somebody commenting on one of the previous videos. We are not going to even go down below $90,000, right? Which is absolutely crazy. How can you not think that we can go down below $90,000? We got the ETF inflows almost hitting $1 billion, right, throughout yesterday. So very, very bullish, right? That's it, guys. Bull run. Off we go to all-time high from here. Well, of course, we do analyze the charts. We look at the internal waves, guys, right? We do try and come to the conclusion on, what's the realistic projections that we do have internally. And I just want to go through higher time frame. This movement up, it does look pretty damn good. I explained in today's video update how, we have a similar movement. We need to be a little bit cautious because for the moment we have a three-wave move to the upside. And even though we claim the highs, which I think is very much expected, this would still be counted as a three-wave move up. So we need a larger correction and then another move to the upside to really count this as a strong impulse, right? The internal wave to the upside could still be part of a three-wave structure, right? And that's what we really need to understand. We got a three-wave move up here, and we potentially have one more high to be created to get above 94,700, the highs of yesterday. But even though, would that be the five-wave? Wouldn't that be the impulsive move? Well, it's still part of this wave, which right now we are trying to, come to the conclusion, is it a wave 3, right? Or is it still a wave C, right? One ABC, I'm getting all confused here. Three-wave structure, we don't like three-wave structures, right? If we are going to be bullish here and go to all-time high in the next coming weeks, of course, a pullback looks imminent, guys. Looks imminent. I'm going to explain a few trading plans, which are going to be very effective, very easy to understand for the viewers, right? A little bit of higher time frame perspective. And then, of course, going into the meat and potatoes, right? The lower time frame. What is the highest probability, trading setups, levels that we'll be discussing, analyzing the waves, Fibonacci levels that we want to be paying close attention to. So let's go right away, first of all, through the comment section and say hello to the beautiful community. Then we go in through the, the similarities that there is from the previous cycle. It's pretty insane. And we do know that we have been front running the previous cycles, right? We've been front running the previous cycles. And maybe a lot of you will say, Will you stop it with the 4-year cycle theory that's been completely invalidated? Stop it right now, right away with the 4-year cycle theory. It needs to be talked about. I mean, this price action that we formed in this zone is extremely similar. So yeah, we would be expecting another all-time high potentially, right? Depending on what we form in this area. But overall, I do expect an all-time high in 2025. You know, my conclusion is, what's going to happen locally, right? What's going to happen locally? We try and identify the possible waves that could be forming on, you know, for the next coming weeks and days. So let's go right away. Say hello to the beautiful community. Smash up that like button, legends. You lazy buggers. You don't like the content or what's going on. I'm not sure how many likes we do have already, but I need that like button to absolutely moon, guys. 40 likes, almost 300 people watching. I'm not happy. Not happy, legends. Not happy. Come on. We're going to, you know, try and identify a few scenarios here together. And I'm going to go through the comment section. I obviously want to do a little bit of Q&A. Like says, I craft for good. Much love. Zach, my brother. Hope you're doing well. Bolo, exciting times. Hi, legends. Yes. I was thinking about selling some of my Bitcoin portfolio, but I'm not, okay? If it were to be a bull trap, it does not matter. One thing is for sure, guys, when we take a look at Bitcoin on the higher time frame, one thing is for sure. This is the most accurate prediction that you will ever hear. Well, you maybe have a lot of people talking about this. Regardless of what Bitcoin does on the lower time frame, mid time frame, in the next couple of years, it does not matter. No matter how low we go, there is a clear trend, right? There is a clear trend. So regardless if Bitcoin goes down, this is the road, guys. This is the road. The road is up. It doesn't matter here. You can dance. You can go backwards to 2020, back forward, and then go up. It doesn't matter. The overall macro trend for Bitcoin, despite going to any low levels, is going to $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 in the next coming years. It's imminent, right? It's kind of imminent, but we move slowly. Adoption, we do have to liquidate, of course, those short traders and also the long traders, right? We do need to get down for all of those that over leverage long positions. So any downside will just bring a buying opportunity, right? If that were to be the case. But overall, that it's pretty damn simple when you consider buying Bitcoin in your buying Bitcoin, right? I started buying Bitcoin in 2018. I managed to accumulate my first Bitcoin at $6,000. And of course, when you have one Bitcoin, you want two. And when you want two, you want three. And that's how it goes. So realizing the massive potential that it has, right? To go to $500,000 and $1 million in the next coming years, right? So that is something that is, imminent in the long term, right? We are going to much higher levels despite any corrective moves and whatever happens, any noise to the downside, right? I'm not here to talk about that, but just a little bit of heads up, right? For all of those people that Bitcoin is an unstopping bull, at the end of the day. Of course, we're going to get pullbacks. We're going to get bear markets, and that is just part of the game, right? But we are going up, baby. That's what we know for sure in the future. So let's go through the higher time frame, discuss a little bit here what is very interesting. We're kind of front running the previous cycle. So I do believe that, an all-time high for 2025 is definitely the scenario. But I also think that we could be peaking out, at some point in between September and October. September, October would be my the months that I would be seeing the price of Bitcoin possibly peaking out, because we have been front running the previous cycles. This cycle was a few months earlier than the previous cycle. And this cycle is actually a few months earlier as well than the previous cycle also. So when we do take a look at then we'll go through lower time frames, guys. It's just something interesting that I like to share here that we do see, right? When we do see this price action right over here. The similarities of this movement, we cannot deny that is there, right? There are strong similarities on this price action And of course, we are coming to a very strong level of resistance, right? Which is this $94,000, $96,000 range. $96,000 is the golden pocket. And the golden pocket from this distribution to this accumulation, right, was rejected. So, you know, this is only looking for a pullback or maybe even a deeper pullback. It is possible. We're just going to have to analyze the waves once we get to that level. But we can see here how the golden pocket, right, after this major rally, we've got a major rally like the one that we're getting here from the last few days, that, you know, eventually we do start getting the choppiness, right? We get the steam going up here and then obviously claim the highs, maybe 1-2 times, and then, you know, get a decent corrective move. Now, of course, can we get that higher low, right? And then head up to all-time high to either double top at $110,000 or break out and continue, right, to $130,000, $150,000, right, throughout 2025 at some point. So when we do zoom in here, as mentioned, we are getting into that zone, right? Most importantly, the biggest resistance that we do have after this multi-monthly consolidation that ended up in a double top scenario, if you wish, distribution, big drop in February, and then a few months here, classic kind of accumulation, right? Where we're just popping out from here. And now we are heading to the resistance area, right? Which is that value area low of this entire trading range that we had, right, throughout 24 and 25. Value area low is providing that resistance. And the point of control is sitting at 96,500, right? Approximately. That's where we do have the golden pocket from the all-time high to the pivot low that was formed here in April at 74K. So interesting resistance. Now, what is also very interesting as we do consider it here, this amount of resistance, we've got that point of control, right? Let me just put that point of control from the range at the golden pocket right over here. What is interesting is also that we have the previous month high. Previous month high is this wick high right over here. So, you know, can we attempt to hit those highs? Boom, you know, maybe get to the point of control and the golden pocket. And that is where we're going to start pulling back, right? When you have such an explosive move like this in the last few days, it is true that most will be waiting for a retracement, right? Most will be waiting for a retracement. However, what you usually see is the highs being retested a few times, right? These are going to get some aggressive short traders to try and, take, be in a short position from the highs. You know, I got in the short from the highs. Well, you know, what you usually do is try and attempt to squeeze out those early shorters before you get the larger pullback, right? So getting a breakout from here, we understand that it's unrealistic, right? This is an unlikely scenario that in the next coming days, we just shoot up here and head up to $102,000, $103,000, right? I think we understand that that is highly unlikely, right? The big move has happened. We've had a very big move the last few days. So it's time for a cool off, a little bit of choppiness, revisiting the highs. I do not see a successful breakout from the highs of 94,700 of yesterday. That doesn't mean that we cannot hit 96 and 97, okay? That doesn't mean we cannot hit this. I just don't see massive continuation just because we need a little bit of a cool off, right? We're going to be focusing on the lower time frames, okay? Most importantly. And first of all, before we go through the lower time frames, we are going to say hello to the absolute legends here in the comment section. Much love to everybody. I got Aditya here, always providing that massive support as always. Alex, moon the likes. Let's go, Alex. Much love to you, brother. GN, hi, morning, Andy. You still bullish on Umbrella? Absolutely, my man. You know, it's all about, you know, letting it rest, okay? Umbrella, I do see Umbrella recovering at some stage, right? Like many of other altcoins that do look like crap, right? Some of them that are getting a little bounce, especially the high cap coins. Chainlink is getting a nice little bounce. But overall, yeah, all of these low cap coins, you know, they are that risk, but I do see that the team is very active. I do think that it's going to get a recovery. Hi, I am stuck at a short from 90,400, 90.4 with liquidation above 100. Do I need to worry? Whew. My man, this is not the kind of trading that I get into, right? You know, in a short down here. liquidation or above 100K, I would have to say it wouldn't make sense to get to $100,000 here in the next coming days, right? You know, you might just be okay. You might just be okay despite going to 95, 96,000 and get the pullback and manage to exit. But this is not the way, you know, this is not really the way to hope, right? It's not a kind of trade that I would be into in that trade, right? I wouldn't be in that trade, not my style of trading. That I'm in a short, I'll just add to the position, right? Liquidations all the way up here, you know, none of that type of trading, you know, many years since I haven't traded like that, just leaving positions open randomly. This is why day trading for me is the sweet spot, right? Sweet spot, right? I missed out, you know, this entire move, but I managed to get into a nice long scalp day trade, long day trade, just all the way up here at $91,000. I managed to get into this move. And that was purely based on the internal waves, right? When we do analyze this price action that we had just on Tuesday, just let me give that brief explanation here. I managed to long exactly right over here, and managed to get this movement to the upside where, you know, I just took the profits eventually after that pump. But the main reason of this long, and, you know, nobody wants to try and long here potentially. Well, you are in an ascending channel, but this would be the classic moment that you're like, hey, isn't this losing steam? And you're forming 4 5s and you get a major pullback. Well, this is really going into the lower time frames, right? Going into the lower time frames, you know, it's an ascending wedge. You know, who the heck wants to long here after the pump, right? You're kind of FOMOing in. You kind of, you know, if you're long in here, you're kind of FOMOing in, right? Most, I think, would rather want to get into a short. This is wedging out after a pump. A reversal is likely. However, I jumped into a long position here, and I would like to just explain that, because that's looking at the lower time frames. That's looking at the lower time frames and understanding that the highs are likely going to be taken, which is zooming in right there. As you do hit this high right over here, right, and you get this rejection, you get a 3-wave move down, right? We could even go to the lower time frames. And what you want to see here on this movement down, right, and we'll go through the local scenarios, what I am looking for, guys, for a trading setup. Just want to explain this long position for education purposes, right? The exact long position was in this range with stop loss at the lows and look to claim the highs, right, and maybe break out. Of course, we've got a bit of volatility here, forming either a double 1 2 and then 3, or a 1 wave and an ABC flat. Boom, massive move to the upside. The fact that you moved here in a 3-wave structure and you bounced all the way up to hit the lows of your first initial wave move to the downside, that invalidates a possible impulsive move in a 5-wave move, right? As soon as you come up and revisit the highs, then obviously, you know, one of the basic things of Elliott wave theory is that your wave 4 cannot overlap your wave 1, and this is on lower time frame, right? You're getting here into the scalp day trading, you know, zone. Of course, you do retrace all the way up here, not only to this pivot low, hitting the golden pocket as well, which is an invalidation for your wave 4, and you realize that this is a 3-wave structure. This movement to the upside, eventually, the retracement becomes very interesting. And whereas the level of interest is in between the 50% Fibonacci and the 7/8 Fibonacci. That is the zone that you expect it to hold. Okay, that is the zone that you expect it to hold right there to get the next push to the upside, at least to revisit the highs. You know, and obviously you could, you know, depending on where you entered, you know, this is the kind of zone where you protect and the price stops you out. I had my stop loss still at the lows here. But this would stop you out, right? When you're too defensive, people that are interested in a long position here, or that are long in late, right? People that are FOMO into the long, well, eventually this movement down is going to stop them out, and then the price will go where it needs to go. I still had my stop loss here beneath the low. And, you know, I managed to miss many of the moves to the upside, but as a day trader, I just analyzed the local price action, right? That long trade that I got here, that I got into. Long trade. No, it wasn't this one. There is a long trade here somewhere. Yeah, basically this was the long trade anyway, right over here. Let's go right away through the local time frame and analyze, what could be an interesting setup for today, right? Why does this look, quite corrective, this movement to the downside? Why does it look quite corrective? And why it does look like that we are going to claim the highs, right? This movement to be a kind of an impulse, we might be forming a larger type of corrective move that is more complex, because looking at this as an ABC, that's it, right? Really cool, nice. And start moving up here to the highs would be kind of too easy. So it might be a little bit complex forming throughout the next coming hours. But what we, what we're looking at here, which I think many are looking, okay, for this kind of momentum to get another movement to the upside. Let me go through the comment section before we go through the lower time frames, guys, because we'll be talking about the possible scenarios that has been shared with the legends today, and will be shared with you, of course, right now. Along the same spot, says Aditya, absolute legend. Everything will pump 100x long, says Jerome. My man, be careful with that high amount of leverage. We are all long in. Let's go. Trump will it continue to go up? Alejandro, I do think so. I do think another leg to the upside is kind of what we are expecting, okay? Andy, where do you suggest we can get into a good entry for the next long? I entered at 91K and took profits at 93K. Absolute legend. That's the same trade that I got in a few days ago. Just this one right over here, and then, exited at this area. Because you can't have a swing long position, right? If you're looking for longs here, they need to be scalps. You want to get out at the highs, right? The highs of the uptrend is kind of your target. And when you've had this pump to the upside, swing long positions from here, we still want a long, we're still uptrending, okay, without a doubt. But it comes risky, right? There's no swing long here to all-time high, because you're going to eat a possible correction, right? So we want to be a little bit cautious with that. Scalp longing it is. Yes, sir, it is. Scalp longing after such a movement to the upside. We can only get into those movements of a couple of $1,000s, right? We cannot expect here the price to go up and hold a massive long. It just for security reasons, right? Just to stay safe. And I do see a decent kind of corrective move to be forming, after taking out the highs possibly, right? So let's analyze a little bit of slightly higher time frame, then we'll zoom in on the lower time frame, and I'll explain a little bit what I'm expecting here. This was an aggressive double bottom, I have to say. Anybody that got into a long position, in this double bottom, very much a valid liquidity grab. You're kind of getting supported also from the highs of this order block. You got a little bit of an order block right over here. You're getting that support. Bit aggressive, but kind of acceptable. Yeah, a little bit of an aggressive swing failure pattern here. This might come down and revisit those levels, or maybe even go to lower levels. And it does look pretty good for the momentum to continue for the moment, right? We'll be zooming on lower time frames to try and understand this structure, right? This structure right over here that, some people might speculate that we are in this is a diamond pattern, right? It's a diamond pattern, and we're going to reverse down to much lower levels, right? We're going to break down. We'll be looking at the waves and Fibonacci on lower time frame. So yeah, relaxing. I'm kind of relaxed. I've been to the gym. I've had my good food. I've had some asahi. And had a bit of a sunbathe. Get sunshine, guys. Vitamin D, very important, right? Stay alive, stay healthy, so you can do better trades. Let's go through the comment section and we'll dive in, guys, through the technical analysis, right? We build it up from scratch. I have a few things ready here on some folders, but I really want to focus on the lower time frame, right? Let's try and look for those intraday scalp trading setups, right? Where's a sign of strength? Where's a sign of weakness? What is the level that is good for a short or a long? Well, shorts, yeah, becomes a little bit risky in my opinion still. I am looking for the price to take out the highs still and then we can talk about shorts. We need to analyze the local waves. Okay, let's see those people joining in. Andy will tell you we are going to pump so hard. I'm sure we are. I'm sure we are. The thing is, we need to understand the charts, right? I got somebody very emotional on a comment on the previous video that said, we will not even get below $90,000 because, you know, we have an inflow on the ETFs of almost $1 billion. You know, you cannot rely. It all is in the waves, or it's all in on the charts, guys. You know, a little pullback is very much expected. A little pullback is okay, right? It's okay to maybe go to higher levels, but looking at the chart for the price to continue very aggressively with no pullbacks is highly unlikely, guys. We need to stay real. Get your emotions and throw them in the bin, because they're not going to help. Your emotions are not going to help. Bitcoin is going to be extremely bullish, and we will go to, you know, higher levels, but we're analyzing the internal waves, okay? I do see all-time high in 2025, okay? But short term, we're analyzing the waves and the possible scenarios, right? So let's go right away through, most importantly, this movement, guys. You know, the most important movement is this one. There are many different scenarios here that we can speculate on. This has been an ABC right over here, right? This is the correction. Or maybe you have some other type of WXY here, double zigzag. There's many, many different higher time frame scenarios, even one that is still not a completed corrective move, right? Which is very, very much possible. For the moment, it looks bullish. It looks pretty damn good. What is disturbing is this mini little pullback that we had here. This wave is, man, this is disturbing. Muy disturbando, okay? Muy. This little pullback to get, you know, big continuation to the upside is very, very disturbing, without a doubt, okay? For it to be a wave 2. So let's go through the internal waves, which is what is most important here. Most important thing is to analyze this momentum to the upside, and then we'll get to this wave over here, because this is the new wave that we're in right now, and this is where we are speculating on another high makes sense. Another high makes sense because I think you can, you know, very much see it, right? The idea here is to look for 5 waves. You got possibly here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that contracting move. And here from this low, as we do understand that this is either a WXY, okay? That is a WXY right over here, which would be this scenario. And of course you do have the contracting move to the upside, right? And then you have the next fresh leg to the upside. There is another scenario which is counting this as a triangle, right? For your wave 4, I did see 𝗕𝗏𝘆𝗽𝗽 talk about this the other day, which is very interesting. I don't like it too much, but overall, it is possible. You got a bit of a running triangle in this scenario, finishing a wave 4, and this is your wave 5. You know, it's still very interesting. You do have a little bit of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. This wave 4, a bit too much of a pullback. Your wave 4 is okay for a triangle. You know, your wave 5 to be an expanding wave 5, it is a rare scenario. Of course, if that were to be the case, the pullback is going to be, you know, is going to be pretty aggressive, right? You would be expecting the price to even get below $84,000 if this were to be a completed wave 5. If this were to be a completed structure, then you know, the pull, you're looking for a pretty aggressive pullback, very likely to get beneath your 4th wave, which is most common, right? When you have a finished impulsive move in 5 waves, most commonly you would get down to this area. I don't like it too much, I have to be honest. You know, this, you know, this wave 3 is it's a little bit deformed. This wave 3 is a little bit deformed with this big pump and dump right there. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, very aggressive 4th wave, almost hitting the golden pocket from this pivot low. Not the most beautiful one, but this to be a running triangle inside of your wave 4 is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And you know, the problem is with counting here the possibility of this being a wave 2, and you're in your wave 3 here, right? When we take into consideration this scenario right over here, this is your wave 1 in a contracting move, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sideways. WXY would have to be the deal if you want it a wave 2. I mean, and retracing to the 236 Fibonacci is extremely shallow. So, and a triangle is not possible in a wave 2. It has to be in a wave 4 if you're looking at an impulse. So, you know, there's some scenarios. Most importantly, what we are interested is in this wave. This is a new fresh wave. So let's go with this wave and see what's going on, because this is the end of this wave. What's going on here? What is going on here is what I want to know. And of course, you know, as we have this, for the moment, we have a 3-wave move up, right? And, you know, I was actually interested. Look at this right over here. You know, this is the best example we could give you with this kind of price action. Aggressive move up, very shallow, kind of a triangle WXY, you know, or a running flat here. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Explosive move to the upside. Consolidation. Hey, we're going to form a wave 4 here. Get ready, right? Or we're going to go to higher levels. And then this happens, right? And you get down to this, you know, to the consolidation of the low. This would be $84,000, right? If we were to, you know, form something similar. I don't think we got, you know, for the moment we have the 3-wave structure, right? When we get the bars pattern and we analyze this movement, right? Let's just get that bars pattern right over here and fast forward, and you're like, this is not the same. What are you talking about? Well, you know, you need to stretch it eventually, because this is lower time frame. This happened in a matter of a couple of days. This happened in a few weeks. But when you stretch that kind of price action, right, all of the patterns happen on lower time frames and higher time frames. So if you see something similar on the lower time frame, you just need to stretch its legs, right, till you actually see the momentum. So, you know, for the moment, this is what you got. You got a 3-wave move up. This, for the moment, is a 3-wave move to the upside. And, you know, preferably we do hit the highs still when we analyze the local time frame. That's what we're going to do now in the next couple of minutes, to look for the internal scalp setups. Okay, but overall, it's still a 3-wave structure. There's nothing still yet confirmed on this movement, just like this one right over here, right? You want that next push to the upside on that pullback. You want to revisit the highs, so you can count this as a pretty good, nice, strong, you know, 5-wave move up. What happened? We started retracing down very aggressively, right? And it just ended up in another 3-waver, and you just continue the big range. So I'm not saying that we are going to form, you know, this exact thing, but we just need to be cautious, especially with this kind of move. You are coming to a very, very crucial level of resistance, right? Which is basically the value area low, all of these lows. It's just resistance, right? It's just resistance that we are hitting right now. And, you know, for the moment, this is not a confirmation, you know, bullish move just yet, right? Just yet. So we really want that extra push to the upside. Let's analyze the, you know, analyze the lower time frames and analyze this internal wave. So let's go with that internal wave and look at the most important levels of support and resistance. Regardless, there is a short trading setup and there is a long trading setup on the you know, slightly higher time frames. We'll explain exactly how I am looking to get into a scalp on this little range. I will explain the exact movements that I'm waiting for, because trading is all about waiting, right? Waiting for something clear. Right now, I would say that it is looking good for the price to take out the highs, okay? And I'll explain it based on what's happened here internally. You know, it looks a finished corrective structure, a possible finished corrective structure. But the main idea here is this wave, right? Crystal clear. We do have a movement here to the upside for your wave 1, wave 2, and you are in your wave 3, possibly, and you're going to form your 4th and your 5th. You're still in your wave 3, right? And sorry, my bad. This is what we're looking at. You know, the other higher time frame picture would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A larger wave 4 here, and then a wave 5, right? But for the moment, we're still developing your possible wave 4, because we have this push to the upside. We can go on the 15-minute time frame. We're going to start zooming in here, right? You have your first initial movement up, and then here, regardless if it is a flat or your wave 1 finished here, and this was just a quick pullback. I like the flat better. It looks better. A little bit of a flat right there, and then continuation to the upside, because you have here your wave 1s and 2s, your 3s, and then 4 and 5s right there, and then you have your ABC flat, and then this is what makes more sense for this wave. So yeah, right now the idea is, are we in a wave 4? Are we in a wave 4, or has this been an ABC movement, right? And it's finished, and we're just going to roll down. That would be interesting to see for, all of the people that are still extremely bullish. I would like to see the reaction of if we do get that dump. But it does look still pretty interesting to see, the wave 4 formation, regardless if it's in or not. That is the overall question. And that's when we need to analyze this momentum, which we are going to do so now in the next coming minutes. So when we take a look at the wave 3, yeah, wave 3 here has been, we're not going to micro count all of this, but it does make sense for this to be your wave 1, your wave 2, and then you have your multiple 1s and 2s, 3, 4, and 5 to complete your internal third wave. So this would be your 1, and this would be your 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have your last 4, 5, all the way up here. A little bit of an expanding move, a little bit dodgy, I have to say, but you do have a kind of a 5-wave move here to the upside. It's kind of a contracting move or expanding. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, you would have to see this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, to finish that third wave. It does make sense to see this as already your finished, right, wave 3. All of this is your finished wave 3. It's where you have the largest amount of volume. Your largest amount of volume is inside of your wave 3. So 1, 2, 3, and now you're still developing your fourth wave, and we're heading up to create some new highs. Question is, do we have the wave 4 already in? Well, we're going to go into the lower time frames, guys. This is where we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to get into the local structure. This right over here, from the highs to this low, this movement does not look impulsive. It does not look extremely bearish. It looks very corrective, which eventually gives you the idea that at some point there is high probability in taking out the $94,800 high from yesterday, right? 700 depending on what exchange. If I want to count this as a bearish move to the downside, and this is the funny thing about this being a wave 4, right? Because what is very, very common is that you have, because this is an easy counting, right? This would be easy counting. Most common retracement 382 to 50%, right? Let's all jump into a long either at the 382 or either at the 50%, because you also have an order block in this area, and you also have a naked point of control. There is a naked point of control from this consolidation. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to long down here, and then the price front runs all of this zone and actually gets to the highs, and you're like, I was going to long at lower levels, right? That was my idea. My idea was to long lower at 382 or 50%, and then the price literally forms a local double bottom and then heads up there without you, or you FOMO in, and then apparently we're in a larger correction. So we're gonna explain this internal structure as well, okay? So make sure to stay tuned. We might just get a setup as well here on stream. For the moment, we are flipping the VWAP, so we are getting above the VWAP, flipping VWAP into support. We managed to get above it, so far. Short-term sign of strength. You know, you ain't getting a massive breakout. It is very choppy. Not the best price action, right? To say this is bullish, right? It doesn't look too bullish. It doesn't look too convincing for me, at least, this movement up. So I want to be a little bit cautious. So yeah, most commonly the wave fours, you know, retracement 382, 50%, but 236 is kind of the minimum zone, right? Which has been hit, as we can see. 382 Fibonacci has been a little bit front run for the moment. So the question is, you know, are we front running this scenario? Are we front running the levels? When we do analyze the internal structure that we have formed that nobody likes to take a look at, right? The lower time frames. When we do take a look at this sharp movement to the downside, and then this bounce, and then all of this, you know, what we do have here is a bit of a triangle. There is a triangle inside here. And then we get this movement to the downside right there. So, yeah, if this were to be bearish, unless we are in a sideways, okay, more complex WXY that we need more information. If this were to be bearish, right, say that you are extremely bearish and you say that the price is going to roll over. For this to be bearish, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong that has happened. And that is, if this were to be the high, this is your first initial wave to the downside, and this is your wave 2. Well, then eventually you're looking at, you know, 3, 4, 5s to follow, right? You're looking at an impulse. If this is not going to be a correction, which does look very corrective for the moment, but if this were to be an impulsive move down, that there is a problem. Very fast wave 1, wave 2 right over here. Wave 2 cannot be a triangle. So you're not counting this as the highs of your wave 2, because wave 2s cannot be a triangle, only wave Bs, right? Or the other corrective waves, such as a fourth wave. Fourth wave can be a triangle. So you already put that in the book, right? You say, you know, if wave 2s can't be a triangle, then your wave 2 high should be here. The problem here with your wave 2 being up here is time now. Time is becoming a problem. Time is becoming a problem because if all of this is going to be part of your wave 3, because you should be developing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, you know, third wave, 4, 5, 4, 5, you know, you're in your wave 3 here. You are already extending, you know, 10 times longer your wave 1, right? So that becomes a bit of a problem when you take a look at Fibonacci time and you say, this was the high, right? Just understanding the probabilities here. That an impulsive move down is unlikely from here, right? And that's purely based on timing. We could come down to the lows and we're forming a little bit of a different, larger corrective structure, right? In a WXY, you know, maybe get a flat here, and then you form a triangle. It doesn't matter, but the probabilities of breaking down for the moment doesn't, you know, are lower than the bullish one, right? Probabilities to move down aggressively are lower than actually still continuing ranging, or the low is in and take out the high. So it's either range and take out the high, or maybe, you know, you're going to start, you know, already climbing up to the highs here. So, you know, probabilities lean on this scenario than actually breaking down very aggressively down to 89, right? $88,000. So, and the main reason why it is, as mentioned, is time, which, I mean, the structure is what leads the way, right? But you got your 1, 2, and your 2 cannot finish here in a triangle. And of course, if this is your wave 2 end, then you're looking for multiple 1, 2s, your 3, 4 is already hitting this low over here. So that's not good. You know, if it is going to be bearish, you're starting to look for an expanding move or contracting move. It's just not looking good for the bearish case, right? It's not looking good to push down for the moment. So when we do take a look at, you know, the timing, most importantly, okay, the timing from this movement down, if this is going to be your wave 1, you know, you're already 10 times longer, even from this low. This is already, this wave from your wave 2, if this is your high, if this is your lower high in a wave 2 and you're forming multiple 1-2s because you're in your third wave, there is a big problem with time right now. You know, your wave 3 is already extending, 10 times longer than your movement down. So this gives you a higher probability that what you're looking at is a corrective structure to sooner rather than later, right, to take out the highs from yesterday. So, we're analyzing a correction here. This is a corrective move that at some point is going to take out the highs, right? That's what we're looking at. So, that's one thing that you need to take into consideration when you're analyzing the chart. First of all, what we're looking at here has higher probability to be some kind of a correction to then take out the high, right? Instead of breaking down very aggressively from this area. So you want to be interested, in local longs to take out the high here. Unless you got into this aggressive swing failure pattern yesterday, which was, quick volatility we had there just wicking above the high. When we do take a look at, that's one thing here, right? That's one thing. And, I do have it here on, basically, this is kind of it. This would be it. Either in an ABC or a 1, 2, 3. If you're going to still continue your ABC here, or your 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what you really got right now. And it does look like we know we haven't hit the invalidation, because from this pivot high, you got your first 1 and 2, and then you got your 1, 2 right over here. And then your 3 has finished here on the micro count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This zone is your invalidation already for the wave 3 that hasn't been hit. Why is it your invalidation for your wave 4? Because it's the golden pocket, and it's also almost overlapping your wave 1 here. So it still hasn't been hit. So I think the bears want to maybe defend that zone. But that would be your first initial sign of strength, right? If you're looking at this to be your wave 3, the moment you start crossing the $93,000, it even increases the probability that you're going to take out this high. Okay, so you have your 1, 2, 1, 2, and then here you have a completed 5-wave move. So that's your wave 3. And this has to be your wave 4 if we're looking at the bearish case, right? Which is literally looking for another push down, right? You still have to put your wave 5 here, and then that's your wave 3. So at the end of the day, this would end up in choppiness, right? If we were to retrace from this zone, you're looking for this, and then this, right? And that would be possibly the completion of an ABC. Right, where you're getting to this order block, and then you find support here. You get a few wicks, a little bit of a wedgie structure with your 4, 5s, and then maybe get the push up. But that, there is a big problem on this scenario, right? There is a big problem. And as mentioned, that is timing. The timing is not looking good at all. If this is your first movement down, wave A, and this is your wave B, or it's your wave 1 and it's your wave 2, all of this becomes a big fat mess and very choppy, very overlappy. If you want to count it as an impulsive move down. Timing is a problem. Timing is a very big problem at the moment, because you're 10 times longer. Your wave C or your wave 3 for the bearish case is 10 times longer, more than 10 times longer than your first initial move down. So then is where you need to start thinking, we're in a corrective move, right? Stop thinking about the price going down, because it doesn't make any sense on the chart. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's when you come to something like this, right? Now this looks a little bit better. For the moment, we have a 3-wave structure from the highs of yesterday, right? And this is like going a little bit into detail on the lower time frame of what's happened here, right? Which is a 3-wave structure. Right? For the moment, you have a 3-wave move down. Does that mean that this is the low, and that we're going to grind up from here already to the highs? it doesn't mean that, okay? Because what could be happening is that you're forming a larger, right, corrective move in this area, because you have a 3-wave move down. You could form a zigzag here and then another zigzag down, and you have a double zigzag, right? And then you get the movement up. So it doesn't mean that this is the low. It doesn't mean that this is the low. It means that you have a 3-wave structure, and it's much more symmetrical in timing. So probabilities do lean to take out this high at some stage. It is not telling me that this is the low. It's telling me that this could be the low, because you already have a zigzag move down. What I know is that probabilities lean on the side to take out the highs at some stage, regardless of what happens or what continues in this area, okay? We're building up here the scenario, guys, so bear with me. Why does this make much more sense? It makes much more sense based on the timing. This is a little bit more symmetrical right now, a little bit more symmetrical, right? Timing is important when you take a look at the waves and the structures, and this looks a little bit better, right? So that could be, this is already a 3-wave zigzag that you have formed. You have a running triangle in your wave B. As we understand that a wave 2 cannot be a triangle, well, then eventually you're not looking for an explosive breakdown on a wave 3 here. And the multiple 1-2 setup, the timing is a problem, because your largest wave 1 and 2, this is extending in time a lot. Again, increasing the probability that you are correcting in this range and that you're likely going to take out the high at some stage. So when we do, this is a nice, beautiful triangle here. You got the bounce. It's a running triangle, right? You got your A wave, your B wave, not coming down, to the A wave, boom, boom, boom. Really, really nice triangle here. And then, of course, you have very nice 5 waves move down, even though your 5th wave is a little bit longer. When you do finish your E wave on the triangle here, you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect, right? Finish, possible finishing your C wave here. There's a 5-wave move down after the triangle. That's it. Bam, bam, bang, right? 3-wave structure. So now my question is right now, is this your first initial wave 1? And your 3rd wave is going to be on the formation throughout the next coming hours, right? That would be nice. That would be nice. The problem here on the lower time frame is, this momentum to the upside, my goodness. What is this, right? This has to be some kind of contracting move still developing, right? What I do see here is your first initial pump and an ABC move right over here flat. We can give that first initial pump, ABC flat. I don't know what's going on here. It has to be part of your 3rd wave. Maybe this is your 4th wave, and then you're going to get one leg to the upside and then a movement down. That would be looking quite interesting. I mean, the choppiness that we formed in the last few hours here is horrendous. It's horrendous. And to count this as, a double 1-2 makes sense as well. A double 1-2 is very much a possibility. But the overall idea here is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get one more leg to the upside in the next hour. And then, a corrective move. You might sweep up the lows. And you're labeling this as your possible wave 2. If you get some strong bullish CVD divergence, right, that's going to be a pretty interesting sign that you can get that leg up here. We are interested in being in the wave 3, right? We are interested in the big wave. And that's what we're trying to spot. Now, of course, this could be a double 1-2 as well, right? And the price suddenly starts shooting up here. Could that be possible? It's not always the easiest scenario to detect, but this could be a 1-2, 1-2, and then price is going to start shooting up here very aggressively. And then of course you create your 4.5s, you know, heading into the highs of yesterday. You need a little bit of more information, right? Need a little bit of more information here to see what develops. But you know, and also we could still be in a larger corrective move, but for the moment there is a chance that this has been the low. There is a chance that this has been the low based on this correction. Very corrective price action, and the bearish case scenario doesn't look good. Giving the probabilities that we, you know, going to take out those highs, you know, at some point. So yeah, that's what we got here. Price is pushing up right now. Let's see if we do form that wedgie move. That would be interesting. This is a bit of an aggressive swing failure pattern, I have to say. Bit aggressive. If we do get a push up here and it fails, I would count this as a contracting move, diagonal, boom, 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 boom. If we fail right now on the breakout of the local highs, if we fail on this movement to continue to the upside, let's see, we're popping out here right now. We're popping out. You know, we could label this as a double 1, 2, 3, and it's just going to shoot up here. Yeah, by the looks of things, it doesn't want to fake out by the looks of things. So we might get that third wave, and it's, you know, going to start pumping very aggressively. What will be interesting, yeah, we're reclaiming the previous day value area low. I mean, that's where we were getting some resistance. Also, in the last few hours, we were getting some resistance from the previous day value area low. So the previous day value area low was providing a little bit of resistance here, and we are breaking above it, which is eventually a good initial sign of strength. Okay, maybe some of you guys just say, I'm just going to go long based on the probability side, and I'm happy to have a stop loss at the low. You know, this is all depending on your strategy, right? But I'm a very detailed trader, right? I like the details on the setups. Previous day value area low was providing that resistance, and of course we are breaking out. We're getting inside of previous day value area low, which is giving you that sign of strength. Usually when you break a previous value area, you have a high chance that you're going to come up to the previous day value area high in this case, right? So at some point. So we back inside, which could still be a fake out. And this is what's going to be interesting, right? You know, this is where the trick happens. If the price were to, you know, move down here, this is where it's going to become interesting, right? I would really label this as the end of the correction, or, you know, worst case scenario is that you are going to be forming some kind of a zigzag here, and then you form a triangle, or you form a flat, and then you move up, right? It might get a little bit more volatile. You know, regardless of what kind of correction happens here, as mentioned, you know, probabilities lean on the side of taking out the highs here at some stage. And it's pretty funny because I think, you know, a lot of people are really expecting, you know, even myself mentioned in the Legends trading community, but we talked about, you know, how we can jump in. This double bottom was a little bit of an aggressive long position, right? You just claim the liquidity from this low. Not the best kind of trade, because usually an ABC, your C wave is a little bit more aggressive, and it is rare to double bottom. It is rare to double bottom from your A wave, because usually your C waves are a little bit more aggressive, right? They're a little bit more aggressive from your A wave. So, you know, not an easy. If you would have analyzed this triangle, of course, on the lower time frame, then you would have speculated that, yeah, maybe it is possible to double bottom here. But yeah, not an easy little range. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about the possibility of rejection, okay? Because, you know, for the moment, right, we could speculate on two scenarios right now for the bullish case. And let's just talk about them because, you know, this will give you a possible setup. For the moment right now, as we are reclaiming value area, previous day value area low, we are back inside, you know, previous day range, right? We're inside of yesterday's box, which is, you know, we can already see that squeeze, that sign of strength moving up here. You know, there's two scenarios on the bullish case. You formed a 1 2 1 2 3. You're going to extend here for a little bit, form 4 5s 4 5s, and then you're going to get a pullback. Okay, if the price were to move up here, right, in the next few hours, right, it is possible that we do not hit the highs with this pump, and, you know, some kind of an aggressive pullback could be on the formation. This is the pullback that you're interested in, right? Round about the 50% Fibonacci to the 7/8 Fibonacci, because, you know, if you FOMO in on the pump, you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to be, you know, possibly trapped in the pullback. So, you know, most commonly you would be looking at the 50% to the 7/8 Fibonacci for the price to form a higher low here in this region. If this were to be the case, if this is a double 1 2, we need that third wave, we need a bit of choppiness here, and then you get the 3-wave structure, and 50% to the 7/8 is your interest zone, because then what you're looking at here is to claim the highs, right? You want to be in the third wave, right? And then the fourth 5, and then we get the larger pullback potentially. You know, we're interested in being in this wave. That's the wave that we are interested in. And this could be the first wave to the upside, right? It's the first initial sign of strength. And the first initial sign of strength usually gets deep pullbacks before you get that leg to the upside, right? So for the moment, it is looking quite good. For all of this to be a double 1 2 setup, I don't like it. I don't like this to be a, you know, a double 1 2. You know, it would have to be an alternative. Just also what I explained before, based on timing, right? The time here is extremely long. Your wave 1 here, second wave 1 compared to your first wave 1, you know, there's a big problem in time. So it makes more sense to look at this as a correction. Worst case scenario for the people that want a long here, you know, and this does not extend. I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a ride, guys. Like as mentioned, you know, if we do get this kind of movement and we do detect this possibly being the end of the correction, where do I have it here? There is the chance of this to be a 1 2 3 4 5, a little bit of an expanding move possibly, and you get a decent move down where, you know, people are very likely going to chicken out here, right? This is the chicken movement, right? Where you're like, whoa, what happened, right? We're dumping, we're going down. Well, I would see this as the opportunity zone, you know, and this could really retrace all the way down to the 7/8 Fibonacci. I mean, it's a possibility, right? But this is where the opportunity lies. When you get this retracement, I mean, it's not the nicest move to the upside, I have to say, very choppy. But this is where you would speculate for that leg up here, based on this correction. Other scenario is that you do stretch your legs here. You do stretch your legs a little bit more because you have a double 1 2 and you're in your third wave. And then what you want to see is 4 5s. You know, once you start chopping here, potentially at the previous day point of control, you know, that's where the price could get a pullback. And it doesn't matter where it happens. It doesn't matter where the price rejects, because what is most important is you want to see that rejection, maybe the value area high or the point of control. I mean, maybe this is not going to be that aggressive if it were to get up there. You know, not the greatest zone to FOMO in, huh? I have to say. You know, maybe it does manage to stretch its legs a little bit and then, you know, consolidates here at the previous day point of control zone. And then you have 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 5, and then you get a decent pullback, and then you're like, whoa, what's going on? We're rolling down. You know, this is the correction that you need to analyze very carefully, and most commonly coming down to the 50%, even the 7/8, right? 7/8 is very, very common, because that's when you get very close to hit the lows, and that's, you know, where the price finds support and it gets a reversal. When you get very, very close to the lows, 7/8 is the ideal level, because that's when you come down very close to those levels. You know, other scenario, yeah, just pulling back down here very aggressively. Other scenario is that you move down here and you form a bit of a three-wave move, right? You come down right now and you need to detect this as a possible expanding move, right? Give or take. An expanding move, and you move in a three-wave correction down to the 50% 7/8 Fibonacci zone, where you want to see the price maintain as support. You want to see the price holding this region if you want to come, you know, if you're coming down to this area. And this is all looking at this being the finished ABC, right? This is coming to this conclusion. You know, this is possibly being the finish of an ABC. And now you're going to start, you know, moving to the upside. It's looking pretty okay looking at the bullish case. Worst case scenario is you're going to form a double zigzag, right? And that's, you know, that's one of the most aggressive pullbacks that you can get here, which is, we can't say it could not happen, right? Because it definitely can happen, especially when we are considering that we are in a wave 4 formation, pivot low to the pivot high, right? We're still speculating here that we could be in that wave 4, and the 382 Fibonacci to the 50% hasn't been hit yet, right? So can this be the ABC front running the 382 and we head up to the highs of yesterday already? Or do we get a double zigzag, right? Well, that's why the pullback down to the 50% 7/8 Fibonacci is going to be the decision point. Hold as support, see bullish CVD divergence, back test the lows here from yesterday potentially, right? Getting aggressive, right? That's like the, oof, are we going to get to the lows or not? So, you know, that's going to be an interesting zone. And the worst case scenario eventually would be a double zigzag, right? Which you are really looking for the price to, you know, you're forming your X at the moment currently, some kind of a corrective move, and then you get an aggressive zigzag down, bringing you that double zigzag structure, which, you know, finally gets to the 382 and the 50%, right? Very possibly. And then, you know, that's the moment where you find the lows. So double zigzag is also, that would be the most aggressive correction that could happen right now. The bearish case scenario of breaking down is highly unlikely. So, you know, what we're looking at here is for the highs to be taken, and just understanding that different type of corrections could be on the formation, right? And the most aggressive one would be that zigzag, some kind of a, you know, corrective move in this area, and then another zigzag down, right? Which, you know, will make people think about, you know, if it is going to find support or not. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to analyze the next coming hours. For the moment, bulls have the probability, especially the more information that we are getting here with this pump. Bulls even have increased probabilities, you know, for the highs to be taken here. So as mentioned, regardless of whatever structure is going to be formed in this range, probabilities lean on taking out the highs, and then, $95,000, $96,000, right? Depending on how we get up there is what we are looking at. An explosive breakout from the highs of yesterday to head up to $105,000 is highly unlikely. So what we're looking at here is, $95,000 to $97,000 range. Very, very likely going to be the topping zone for then a larger correction to the downside in the next coming days, okay? That is what the analysis says. That's what the charts say. We need to go with chart analysis and not with the sentiment, right? Because a lot of people are like, I got a comment from someone saying that we ain't going to go down below 90K because we had $1 billion of inflows yesterday. So it's not going to happen, right? You cannot rely based on inflows or news or anything, guys. We analyze the waves and the situation and look at what is highly likely to happen, at least on the short time frame. And I understand based on, I am bullish on the local time frame, and I do understand that we're going to hit the highs. And I understand that a breakdown from here is highly unlikely based on the local structure. I understand that a breakout here to massive high levels is extremely unlikely to get above 100K, right, in the next couple of days. That's, highly unlikely to happen. Highly unlikely. So... And the main reason why eventually is that, very, very strong pump that we had the last few days, right? For this to consolidate over so slightly here and do this, this is, an unlikely event, right? If you take a look at the charts of many different assets, unless you're in a massive bull run or an altcoin, you ain't going to see this kind of momentum, right? It's an unlikely event. So, and as it's an unlikely event, you just know that you're not taking it into consideration, right? It's it's something unlikely to happen. So you just don't consider it. Let's go right away. No chart says we are going to lower lows. No chart says we are going to lower lows. Interesting. You mean on the higher time frame? No chart says that we can go to lower lows. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, this does look pretty damn good. Yeah, I would say that we would retrace here, manage to find a higher low at some point, and get, head up to all-time highs if we were to pull back. I am expecting a pullback, right, based on the price action that we formed here in 2021, guys. And all chart analysis comes with history, right? Why do people come with, confluence levels, right, such as point of controls, Fibonacci, Elliott wave, harmonics? It's all based on history, right? All the future analysis is based on past analysis, right? You're looking at what happened in the past to see what could be projected in the future on the charts, right? So, as mentioned, we had a very, very similar price action movement that we had here in, where is it? the bars pattern from 2021, right? And this is just something that makes sense, right? It's just something that is common sense, right? For all of those people that think that we are going to go to all-time high in the next coming days, it's an unlikely event. I do see all-time highs obviously happening, guys. It's going to happen at some point, but pullbacks are very much needed, and pullbacks are very much real, especially with the local price action. A larger pullback is extremely likely at some point, right? And when you have a distribution event and an accumulation event, the first breakout leg, when you come into the zone of your distribution event, the lows and the golden pocket and all of this is going to provide some kind of resistance, and you will not slice through on your first attempt in hitting the levels. Of course you can, but it's an unlikely scenario. Any chart, guys, you see something like this and a movement down and an accumulation, you know, you are going to have some kind of an issue here once you get into this zone. It's just you know, the most common scenario, the reaction from that base. You know, and this happens most of the times. Of course, you can slice through the level. You did on the next event, right? On the next breakout. But the first attempt, you are going to find yourself with some problems most of the times, right? And get some kind of a pullback. So just something that I wanted to point out there, legends, you know, something that I wanted to point out. So this is why, you know, it would make sense, you know, to find some problems here, right? You know, it would make sense to find some problems here at 95, 96K, right? Maybe 97 you can push up, but it would, you know, you're likely going to find some problems, and then we need to analyze the pullback, right? The pullback is what we need to analyze because we don't know how aggressive it could be. Somebody's saying in the comment section there's no chart that, you know, tells us that we can come back down to the lows. Oh man, we've changed very, very quick. You know, a few weeks ago, we were so damn bearish, right? We were so damn bearish. Let me know in the comment section, guys. Are you feeling very bearish and it's a bull trap? Or, you know, this is all-time high? You know, a lot of people have flipped very bullish, very, very bullish with this pump. You know, are you feeling very, very bullish? Let me know right away. I'm going to create that poll here to see, you know, the opinion. How are you feeling for the coming weeks? Right, let's give weeks, okay? Days, you know, we need to say weeks at least. Very bullish. We go bearish, right? We won't say very bearish. But let me know right away on the poll, guys. It's very interesting because most of the times my polls are a 50-50. You know, we have a very, very strong sentiment here of people being either very bullish or very very bearish. Let me know, guys, what do you think here on the very bullish 60, 40, bearish 40, you know. Yeah, this is, you know, already. So usually you would want to see this on a very hyped market. The fact that there is a lot of people bearish with this pump kind of makes it still okay to go to higher levels, right? Okay. Because if this were to be 70% bullish or 75% bullish, then it starts being worrying, right? When you get the people that are very, very bullish, then you will realize that a reversal is very much, you know, on the way. But, you know, most of the times it's a 50-50, guys. Make sure to get your votes in on your sentiment. Don't lie, okay? I want your real, you know, what do you think for the next coming weeks? You know, are you feeling that bullishness? And Bitcoin's all good, all blue skies and rainbows. Let's go, dude. It's bearish. What is wrong with Ethereum? I don't know. I haven't checked Ethereum. Andy's very bullish. What are you, Andy? No, I'm kind of neutral. You know, I'm really dependent on the lower time frame. So on the lower time frame, I do see another high. Of course, I do see massive resistance, as mentioned, golden pockets, point of control. Most of the events where you have a distribution and you have a drop and an accumulation, most of the events, you're going to find some problems here. And you know, you ain't going to go up here in a matter of a few days with any shallow pullbacks. Most of the times this does not happen. So I have to say, consolidation here. We're still in this correction. It can be complex. It can be a double zigzag. It can be a sideways, you know, WXY. Corrective formation, right? In the current range that we are forming throughout the last 24 hours. And I'm looking for a reclaim of the highs. And, you know, I'm kind of bullish short term, right? Correction, sideways momentum, maybe a dump down of $1,000 if it were to be a double zigzag, or 2,000 even. But ultimately looking for the highs to be taken, and then a correction, and hopefully a correction and not an aggressive move down. You know, somebody was saying that there's no chart that says that we're going to claim the lows. Most of the charts do say that this could be a finished kind of correction. There are many ways in counting this. You know, just because we have so many waves here, you do have the possibility of this being an AVC. Not the most beautiful one because you have an expanding move here. And then obviously your WXY and your B wave sideways momentum, and then a contracting move down here for your C wave. The reason why you don't like, you know, you can't give this the highest probability is because your A wave was an expanding move. So if you have something else, then you would go with something else, right? It's just, there's so many different options. You have the WXY double zigzag here. Problem here is your second zigzag is much shorter in time than your first one. You also have the possibility of an ABC, you know, you have also WXYXZ. That is also a possibility. You have your zigzag here, complex correction, zigzag here, WXY right over here for your X, and then another zigzag right over here. That is also possible. Also, all of this does look extremely corrective. Now, could this be even a longer correction, right? And we're just going to maybe even range and even possibly claim the lows again, right? Somebody was saying it's not possible to take the lows anymore. Damn, that is like very, very bullish. When we take a look at the timing from the impulsive move that we formed from here, there is still a lot of time to faff around in this area. There's a lot of time still. A few months, easily to range still, easily. We have a lot of time. Even, you know, even though if you get the lows from Fibonacci time from the lows, I mean, you know, we're zooming out here. We're zooming out and we're analyzing the leg up here that we've had. From this low, or this low, it doesn't matter. If this was a triangle and the low is here, it does not matter. There's still lots of time. There's still lots of time to even get into a larger kind of correction. And you always need to take that into consideration, right? For the moment, it's looking good. It's not looking too bad for the bulls. But we have a lot of time still, guys. You know, if we take this as the low from the start of the movement up to the all-time highs, we haven't even crossed the 1-to-1. The 1-to-1 is in July. So the correction is still very small in time compared to the movement up. So, and we could go all the way to the 2-to-1. That's in 2026, right? We could correct here and range for a long time. Even though if you do get the low from this pivot, let's just take a look at that. This pivot low, right? On this movement up. You know, you haven't even crossed the 1-to-1. And you can go to the 2-to-1. That would be in August. There's a lot of time here to still dance around. Look at this, man. I mean, look at this correction. This was very, very long. This was very, very long. And that's when you take into consideration the start of the pump here, right? So, you know, the start of this pump, very strong rally. In the middle, we had the ETF approval just to complete your wave 3. Absolutely golden. FOMO zone with a big dump in the middle. If we do take into consideration the timing from here to the pivot high, you know, yeah, and this was long, only just passing the 0.618 in timing for this low. 1-to-1 is here. That's where we started to break out. So when we started breaking out is when we crossed the 1-to-1, right? Boop. That is the timing. So, and taking the timing into consideration from the last leg up, if you consider this being the low, you know, there's still quite a bit of time, you know, to even get to the 1-to-1, which would be around about July. So that there is, you know, the whole thing is here, guys, that this all-time high on the higher time frame is coming. All-time high is coming at some point in the next coming months, if not weeks. Whatever you try to come, you know, to the conclusion on what's happening here, all-time high is kind of almost imminent. It looks imminent based on this movement down. Very, very corrective price action. Regardless if you get a bounce and claim the lows again and move up, it looks very, very corrective. I mean, there is one bearish case. There is one bearish case, okay? You can't say it's imminent. I'm sorry, my bad. I cannot say it's imminent, but there is one bearish case, and the bearish case scenario would be the contracting move, not this one, to the downside, right? I mean, the problem with this is the timing as well. Your wave one in a zigzag is extremely long in time compared to your third wave and your fifth wave, right? It's not something that you say it's not possible, but it doesn't look symmetrical. You know, the more symmetrical a chart looks like between waves, the better, right? You know, you want to get to the closest symmetry possible. So and that's why on the lower time frames it makes sense that we are correcting and the highs are very likely going to be taken, right, as explained at the beginning of the video. So yeah, this scenario would be the bearish case, and you're either labeling this movement down as your A wave or your one wave, right? And, you know, somebody said there's no bearish scenario. Of course there is. Come on, there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, this might be a bull trap. Why not? You always need to see the other side of the picture, right? You can't only be extremely bullish or extremely bearish. I'm extremely bullish for Bitcoin on long term. That's inevitable, right? You cannot change that. But on the lower time frame, you need to consider some, you know, the bearish case. There is this one, which is, you know, eventually you would see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contracting move. This would be a bit too fast for a zigzag. So you would want to see some kind of, you know, this, and then maybe roll down, get a bit of timing, more symmetry on the movements. But you need to take it into consideration. You know, what if, you know, what you're forming here, and then you move down. You just need to take it into consideration. Do I give it the highest probability? Absolutely not. You know, I do see the higher probability being in all of this being some type of corrective move, and the all-time highs is very likely going to come in the next coming months, if not weeks. So yeah, let's go through the comment section and see what's 89K here we come. Yeah. Legends, remember, if you are interested in trading, we got MEXC, which is a platform that only needs an email and a password. You can even win a Ferrari. Look at that. Email and password only needed on MEXC, guys. And I think you can trade almost anywhere in the world. You get 20% deposit bonus and you get 25% fee reduction. You know, see here how you get the bonus. You need to wait 3 days on your futures account, and you'll get that airdrop, maximum $2,000 to increase your capital, guys. Take advantage of that bonus with the second link down below, legends, okay? Another way to support the channel, of course. Another way for you to get some extra capital for your trading. Let's go right away, see what the people are saying. Too much what if? Well, hey, look. Too much what if. I can tell you that there is a high chance, okay, that we take out the highs, then we actually go down to $88,000. Okay? We're at 92, 88K, or 96K, 95, 96K. This is more highly likely than this. Okay? Based on this local structure, you know, all the information is what you need with the price action, right? Do you want a long here and put a stop loss at the low? Well, you need to be aware that a double zigzag is a possibility. If we get a double zigzag, I will be very interested in the long. Order block right over here. You know, and that's basically on the local time frame, right? This is an unlikely scenario. Multiple 1-2s. Timing is a problem right now. This is what makes more sense. You have a completed 3-wave structure. And right now the question is, as we still have a little bit of time, we still have some time here to develop this wave 4. We get Fibonacci time from this pivot low to the pivot high. We crossed the 0.382 timing, so we're already good for the price to rally. But we could extend here all the way till tomorrow easily and form a larger sideways correction. Either in another zigzag down, or you form a zigzag up and you form a triangle and then you break up, right? In your WXY, you know, it could still be very, very rangy, but it is highly likely that this is corrective, meaning that you will take out the highs at some point, then impulsive for the bearish case. You know, what else? You know, then you need to develop your strategy, what you're waiting for. I'll just jump into a long position then, and you know, I will not have a stop loss. And if we come down, I'll only add to the position. I mean, this is up to you, right? I'm just a crazy guy on the internet that's giving you my opinion and my thoughts on the probabilities, right, that could happen. So yeah, too many what ifs. Yeah. Well, if everything was you know, certain, then it would be too easy, right? What if we just completed a corrective A-B correction waiting for the C wave? What if we completed an A-B correction and we're waiting for the C wave? Is that on the higher time frames, Camilo Vargas, amigo? Is that on the higher time frame? What if we just completed corrective A-B correction waiting for the C wave? I assume that you are talking about the higher time frames, right? Or the lower time frames. Do you mean this as an A wave and B wave and C wave? Yeah, I mean, this is literally this right over here, right? This would be your A wave and you are completing your B wave, right? In the next coming couple of weeks. The timing would be, oh, you still have a lot of time here for your B wave. This cannot be your B wave. It would be too fast. It would be a big range still to form here for so it can be a bit more symmetrical. But yeah, I think, you know, I think that's your higher time frame you mean, or lower time frame. Lower time frame, you possibly have your ABC already formed as explained here. Yeah, this is what makes more sense. You have your triangle here in your B wave, and then, you know, this is the scenario that we're looking at. So yeah, maybe your wave 4 is already in. Maybe your wave 4 is already in. I don't like this price action too much. It's very choppy and very, so maybe it's going to be a correction, and then we form the last stage of the wave, right? Then we form the last stage of the wave and we form a WXY. So yeah, this is what you kind of need to pay attention to right now in the next coming hours between today and tomorrow. You know, this might extend. It either goes up from here with corrections or not, or it forms, you know, something different. Worst case scenario is a double zigzag, which would eventually bring a pretty sharp move down to the order block zone, 90k, low 90k levels. But I would still be interested in the long. So yeah. We are pumping hard. Yes, we are, Jerome. 1 hour time frame. On the 1 hour time frame. You're saying an ABC. An ABC here. And we're still forming the C wave. I mean, where's your comment? on the 1 hourly time frame. 50-50 on the poll. It is always a 50-50 on my polls. It's pretty crazy, right? Who's bullish, who's bearish for the coming weeks. It's pretty crazy. I said it on the previous video update that I made today. And I said, I'm going to do another poll today and see what happens. And it's a 50-50. How are you feeling for the next coming weeks, guys? You know, very bullish, you know, or bearish. 50-50, guys. What's going on? Over 260 votes. So, yeah. Alts are flying. Alts are flying, apparently. Yeah, I haven't even checked my altcoin portfolio. But alts are getting a nice little pump here the last, you know, few days. Very, very nice. Oh, no, I wouldn't say flying. In the last 24 hours, we ain't getting much flying on altcoins. I'm not sure what altcoins are you looking at. It's probably Fartcoin or something like that. PooCoin. Official Trump has got a decent pump. Atom got a 4.7% pump in the last 24 hours. Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance. This has got a 12% pump. Most of them not pumping that much. Yeah? You know, you must have an epic altcoin bag of secret altcoins. Alts are dead, bruh. Fart boy all the way, says Mike. Avax, please. It's gaining momentum. Avalanche. Let's take a quick look. I got my uncle here in Dubai, and I need to go and see him, and I need to go and have dinner with my uncle, Uncle Joe. He's in the Royal Navy. You know, this is the overall still idea for Avalanche. Still overall idea. Just, you know, claim the lows, holding pretty nicely. I like this range. We ain't going to do lower time frame. We'll save that for another live stream. We'll get some altcoins for the community to take a look at some alts, guys. Ondo, baby. Ondo, we know Ondo is, you know, it's one of those altcoins. Real world asset, right? That the big players are in, right? We know the big players are behind this. BlackRock, right? This one's going to survive. You know, this is very likely going to survive. Might do a 2-3x, right? In the next coming months. Staying real, guys. Legends. Me love some Undo. Got it at 77 cents. What a legend. Hello, everyone. Claudians, my man. Or I don't know if you're a man. Maybe not. Have to risk it for the lipstick. Oh, yes, baby. All right, legends. I'm going to wrap it up. I need to go and see my uncle. I might do a late live stream. Probably not. I might do it tomorrow. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Stay cautious with your trading. Probabilities lean on the side to revisit the highs of yesterday. Be careful. It might get a little bit choppy, roppy, and then we head up to the highs. But the momentum does look like one more high, especially on the lower time frame. It does look extremely corrective. Stay cautious on the higher time frame. You know, we do have this wave to the upside, all right? Just for all of those bears. What if we formed a 3-wave move up, right? We extend this kind of price action for all of those bears. This is this move right over here that we had the first week of March. A little bit extended though, of course. Ooh, that wouldn't be looking good, right? Stay cautious. We are at big resistance. I do not expect a big breakout above $96,000. Choppiness is likely, and a larger pullback is the higher probability in the next coming days. But first of all, let's get to the highs and see what happens. Legends, much love to you, and I'll see you tomorrow.